part one. What we're gonna do is find Ableton Live Lite and we're gonna open it. It's the first step. And the objectives of this first lesson are to preferences, audio in and out, and we're gonna do sample rate, counting in, setting up the MIDI controller, file folder, warp, and the look and feel of Ableton. So those things. Okay, so let's look at the audio first. At the top, I'm gonna go to settings, and we're gonna look at the audio. We're gonna set up, if you have an interface. It depends on your level. If you're a beginner, maybe you could just use the microphone with your computer, or you can plug in a USB, but you got to find and select it here. Then output is where the sound's going to come out. You can choose. And then sample rate, you can mess around with this. I was taught that buffer size, the lower it is, the faster it is for you when you're recording and when you're putting in MIDI notes. It's the lag and the latency should be low, right? So you can hear it faster back. Whereas when you're done recording and you're just editing and mastering and just working with the samples, that's when you can change it to higher. You can even, while you're playing your plugin, you can even switch it up and see if it makes a difference. I'm hearing clicking sounds, so you can play around with that. Then you can push this one to hear the sound coming, and then we'll look at here. The file folder is basically where your temporary your files are going. You could do your plugin scanning. You could turn these things on and off. Basically, if you're not finding plugins, you can mess around with this. Look and feel is like how it's gonna look, so you can change the theme. Okay, so let's see if I cover these things. Warp. Okay, setting up your MIDI controller. If you have a MIDI controller, you're gonna plug it into your computer and then you're gonna look for it here. Hopefully it comes up. Hopefully you find it. If you do, that means it's kind of set up in a way that you can push buttons and it can work with the Ableton Live software. But this is important to check mark track and check mark remote, so that whatever you push will be read by Ableton. Input and output, you can also mess around with that here. Okay, that's important. Now, warp is basically when you load a sample. Warping means that the software is going to use its algorithm to tune it or change it to the tempo you set. I don't want that. So when I load a sample, I want it to be unwarped, basically the way it was originally made. I can warp it later, but I could turn it off, and this just means like it creates a fade at the starting and at the ending of it. All right, so we got that set up. Let's see if I covered everything. Count in. Count in is basically like before it starts recording, it's like a count in, like 1, 2, 3, and then it starts. So you might want it to start right away. You might want it to be 1 bar. You can play around with that. You can have it save different file types. You can do different bit depth. Okay, so I'm going to conclude that. So lesson 1 is just about the preferences, to set it up so that it works for you. You can even set up like where your library, where most of your content is, like where is all of your content. You don't have to worry too much about that. Like I'm going to go into how to add more folders on the left hand side here, but I'm just going to conclude there. You can practice with me. We can just go through quickly. Remember, you can mess around with this. Audio, make sure you set up your input and output. That's important. MIDI is important. If you're not, we're gonna focus on using your keyboard, use your mouse with this course part 1. But MIDI controller might be something that you're interested in. If you are, you can I can show you there's a menu option here, help option, built-in lessons, and then you can find more about your hardware, your MIDI controller right here, and you can learn more about it. All the lessons here, and you can learn more about it. So I'm going to conclude there. Thank you so much.